Happy Saturday, everybody. How's everybody doing? Happy Father's Day weekend. Hope everybody's doing good. And happy Father's Day to all you dads out there, and all the moms who act as dads to their kids. So hope everybody's doing great. As you can tell, Krista's not here tonight. She is out visiting her dad on Father's Day, and the reception there she said, is awful. So she is not here. I will be flying solo tonight. So it won't be Krista opening a can of spam tonight. And judging by one or two of the comments, I think I had you guys fooled tonight. We are not going to open a can of spam, a can of canned meat. So we will in just a second. Actually, you know what? Actually, before we get to that, keep you in suspense a little bit longer. If you guys have any paranormal stories that you would like to share, encounters, Bigfoot, Dogman, ghosts, if you've been on ghost hunts before and want to talk about what you saw or heard, send me an email at paranormalamongus72@gmail.com. It's down there on the bottom of the screen right now. Also, if you would like to grab some official Paranormal Among Us merchandise, here's the back of the t-shirt. There's the front of it. I also have like little pillows and keychains and stuff. Head on over to Purple Penguin Crafts and Creations.com. On the bottom of their page, they have all the official stuff that she makes for me. So that's pretty awesome. And also, if you want to support the show, I have Venmo set up right now. It'll be on the bottom of the screen. It's certainly, not expected. It would be appreciated, but not expected. And also, this is going to be the first show that I am over 500 subscribers. So I hit that just the other night. Many thanks to Nellie Turner for spreading the word. A lot of paratroopers jumped in and hit subscribe. So I appreciate everybody who has hit subscribe and who is in the chat now and everything else, and who watches after the show goes live and everything. So without further ado, thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate it. Without further ado, I am going to open a can of spam right now. Fisher of spam.
What's up, everybody?
How you doing, bud?
Oh, man, I'm doing better than I deserve, brother. How are you?
Oh, doing fantastic. Happy Father's Day to you a day early.
Thank you. You too, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, instead of opening up a can of meat today, you guys just get me for a little bit. So,
and I got to meet a few of the people from chat in when I was in Ashmore. Always good to put a face with some of the names that you see coming across the chat. And Fisher was so nice to send me a bunch of his stories that he has with paranormal and everything. And dude, you have just been blessed, gifted. I don't know. Targeted.
Depends on how you want to put it. I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't exactly say it was fun, but hey, it's something. It was a trip.
Well, some of them were kind of hairy, but other ones they turned out better in the end than I thought they would.
Yeah, as time goes on, things get better, man. And once I kind of get my life kind of turned back around where I need to be, and after I've learned the things I needed to learn, I started having some victories. So It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So let's kind of set the stage a little bit. How old were you when you had your first encounter?
Let's see here. My very first encounter would probably be when I was around 17 years old, if I had to guess.
Okay.
I had a couple of small, interesting things, yeah, but it depends on your perspective. Growing up Pentecostal, you kind of see things like people having demons cast out of them and some crazy spiritual stuff on the regular pretty generally. So, I guess it depends upon your threshold, my real stuff that's actually that I consider scary doesn't happen until in my 20s.
So before all this stuff, were you a believer in extraterrestrials, UFOs, stuff like that?
Yes. So my whole life, I was always interested in the paranormal, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
extraterrestrial, ghosts, cryptids, all that stuff was absolutely fascinating to me. I love a good mystery, man. And I think
Mm-hmm.
there's like no bigger mystery. So I've always had an interest in it. And then come to find out, so like apparently the paranormal is pretty common in like my family's line from both sides, mom and dad.
Really?
They all have all kind of crazy stories that have been handed down, and apparently there's other stuff that's happened to cousins of mine and all that. So I've kind of grown up hearing all of the stuff that's happened with them, from you know the devil chasing one of my uncles out of the woods in southern Ohio, to like my mom being little and with her grandfather, watching UFOs go in and out of Lake Erie. So I mean, I've heard all this stuff before. My family is originally from here in Alabama, like my father's side. So apparently there was a lot of interesting events that happened in like the late 80s, early 90s. So that kind of stuff was also in the background. Like when I
Right.
was a child, when I would come to Alabama for vacation in the summer, there was a circle of grass in the pasture. It's actually just right over there from me because I live here now. But anyways, I used to play here in this pasture. I saw it all the time. Circle of grass that just didn't grow, right? I was like, what happened here? Well, apparently during the 5 UFO flap, a UFO landed in the field out here.
Wow.
So a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And then as time goes on, I get with my wife, and her family has just
Mm-hmm.
a lot. I mean, so much. But I guess before we get into all that, I mean, you want me to give you like a brief history of what happened all in five?
Sure, but before we do that, you kind of mentioned something about a UFO coming out of the water. What do you think it is about UFOs and water? I've heard a lot of stories of them coming out of the ocean, lakes, rivers. What do you think that is about that?
I mean, if you want to hang around somewhere here on the surface that's pretty well hidden and pretty pretty dang deep. I mean, a Great Lake that was carved out by a glacier seems like a pretty good place to hang out.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some kind of energy or something that maybe you could tap into from there, but
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I have no idea, man.
And it's just a pretty good place to hide too. I mean,
Yeah.
especially in the oceans, that there's a lot of areas down there that we have not. Most of the areas down there that we have not explored in the canyons and whatever
Mhm.
that are in the oceans that we just haven't explored, and perfect place to hide. So, all right. I wanted to grab that question right off the bat, real quick.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about the history you said.
All right. So I'm not going to bore everybody by going into great detail. I'm going to give you guys like the overview. You know, if it's interesting, feel free to Google it. You can find everything online. There's even a couple of YouTube videos from back in the day. But anyways, the information is there. All right. So essentially, what happens is a bunch of UFOs are being seen all over Fife generally, but like the surrounding area too. And eventually, a lot of cattle mutilations begin happening. And everybody's all up in arms about it. Nothing's getting done. We need answers. We're pretty serious about our cows here in Alabama.
Mhm.
So, as the story goes, North American Cattle Association hires Mr. Greg Oliphant III, who is a police officer in Fife, to head up the investigation.
Okay.
So apparently, I don't know, the guys go around and do a lot of investigating. They're there. Well, if you believe the chief of police, who has his own story on the matter, a lot of times they even get there before daylight. I mean, like almost as soon as an event happens. And for him, I know that always, raised a red flag, because I've talked to him decently in depth about this. But so there's a lot of weirdness going on. Like, it starts off pretty far above board, and then all of a sudden it gets strange. But I mean, to sum everything up, the guy on his website pretty much comes to the conclusion of, beside the helicopter incident, which I'll get into, basically chalks it all up to the government testing for mad cow disease, which is why the mutilations are happening.
Okay.
So, is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but it's not going to be very likely after I keep on going. So, one of the interesting things that happened to him while he was on his investigation is that he's with his partner in this, which was chief of police in Albertville, which is about 20 minutes down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they get a tip off to be at an area, and they basically witness a black unmarked helicopter that's exiting the scene. They're like, okay, this is crazy, so let's follow this guy down. So they follow as best they can from the car. The whole time they're trying to hail the pilot, air traffic control. They're not really getting any feedback from anybody, that's saying, yeah, there is something even there. And the weird, interesting thing about it is eventually they're able to follow it all the way to Anniston Army Depot. So after that, they get no answers. But that's kind of like where the wife's side of the family story begins to take place. All right. So little before that, her father has an interesting sighting on his way home from work. So I don't know how late it is, but it's very late at night. He's coming home from work. He's driving down the road, and he's passing by his cousin's house. And he sees a light in the field. So his automatic reaction is, it's something wrong with cousin's combine tractor, what have you.
Right.
Better stop, make sure, see if he's okay, see if I need to go get dad, yada, yada. So he parks, starts walking out there, and he realizes, oh no, this is no tractor. This is a ball of light in the field. Big old ball of light. All this is going on in the news, because, I mean, everybody's talking about the UFOs pretty openly. It's not like it's being covered up by any stretch here.
Right.
And so he's like, well, I mean, this is what's his words to me. How many times in life do you get to go see a UFO?
Exactly.
So he just walks on out there and goes right up to the thing, staring right at it, goes to touch it. And as soon as he touches it, the thing shoots out a beam of light that hits him in the head.
Wow.
And from that, he has no memory. The next thing that he knows is he's waking up in the middle of the field in the morning, freaked out, because everything's playing back to him like, oh my God, what just happened? What's going on? So he goes and talks to his dad first. He's freaking out to his dad about it. And his father is an ex-military man and is somebody that's actually very, very important at the Anniston Army Depot, as well as Huntsville's Redstone Arsenal. So he's like, all right, I'll handle it. And then, that's a red flag. He's like, what do you mean you'll handle it? How could you handle this? Well, just don't worry about it. I'll handle it. And he's like, okay, I guess Dad's going to handle it somehow. Whatever. And then all of a sudden, you'll notice, if you look at like the timeline of events, things start to change. All of a sudden, where people are no longer seeing UFOs, but they're seeing black unmarked helicopters.
Okay.
So, and as I pointed out, part of the interesting information now about like how Mr. Oliphant was able to get some of these scenes before anything had been kicked off, anybody had even been called, is interesting. It comes into question, okay?
Mm-hmm.
How would he know to be at these places unless he's being tipped off by somebody, right?
Exactly.
Probably in the government. So I'm assuming, now because I don't know, her grandfather, he would never talk about this kind of stuff. He'd get very upset about any of it.
Right.
But he was a retired spook, basically. But anyways, um, so things change. And when you look at like the information of like the partner, right? How could they be tipped off? Because if you do something in the government, there's going to be some kind of a paper trail that you could follow, right?
Right.
Well, if you look at the dude's partner, he's a very high-ranking Mason. You go to his Facebook, you can see all the Masonic imagery and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's an interesting detail. Well, it turns out the grandfather-in-law is also high-ranking Mason. So, not that I'm saying that they get up to no good or anything, but I mean, there are stories. I'm just going to leave it at that. To each their own, whatever.
Right.
But if you want to have a back channel and tip some people off and you don't want to leave any kind of a paper trail, I would imagine hanging out at the lodge, passing messages through that way would be a great way to make that happen.
Exactly.
So, so that's basically what happened there, essentially. I mean, there's plenty of details there, and I'm just trying to get the basic part of that out.
So before we go any further, there was a question here from Smurfy. Did he have any long-term effects from that beam shot? Or have any effects at all from it?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, he had some PTSD for sure, which is pretty understandable.
Right.
He didn't really like talking about it much. He only went into it like with detail with me when I talked to him about it, because he was just like impressed, like just so impressed that like, oh my gosh, you had an experience too here. Holy crap, let's talk. Because other than that, he's very private person. He's also a little bit estranged from the family too. So I mean, we don't like just hang out. But I mean, he was definitely affected, and I asked him, I was like, do you ever think about like maybe wanting to do some regression and see if anything happened? He's like, no, I want no part of that.
Yeah.
I don't want nothing to do with that. Because he has his own like doctorates in psychology. So he's he knows all about that kind of stuff. And if he's like, no, I don't want a part of it, I know perfectly fine and well what's going on with myself. I'm going to leave it at that. So I'm just like, all right. But I mean, he was concerned, when I told him my story, to be fair, he did want to know, like everything that happened to me, and was actually concerned for once, which was nice. So it's like, okay.
Okay. And this was, what year was this that one in?
So this would be in the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. I don't have exact dates. I'm sorry, guys. Not when
I
it
know
comes to that.
you sent me, close dates. I think
Yeah,
the year.
I would assume
so
this
that's
would
fine.
be like in 90, maybe 91. I mean, I could find out for more prosperity's sake. If I ever write a book on the matter, I'll do that. But
there you go.
For now, yeah, in the time frame, look it up online. When you see things change from UFOs to black helicopters, right before that black helicopter starts, that's when it happened for him.
Okay. All right.
All right. So, needless to say, I'm aware of all these stories. These things contribute to my interest. So, I'm super fascinated by this, and I'm watching all the YouTube videos and documentaries and podcasts I can on this kind of stuff, just trying to figure it out, because it was already interesting, and now that I'm this much closer to all these events that even happened, it's like I've got to get to the bottom of this. But how? How? I've had a few experiences before in the past that were interesting, and we'll get to them, because one of them I know was real funny and everybody loves. But so I stumble across a guy named Stephen Greer. All right, find him from Joe Rogan. And he talks about CE5, which is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, a little bit new agey, a little bit hippy dippy. You know, I kind of almost get a little bit bendy when I want to talk about it, man. So, you know, it's interesting, but it's like, okay, but apparently the guy's having a lot of success with this. So I'm like, all right, well, let's give it a shot. Let's look
Right.
into it. So I do a little bit of research on it, find his app and things like that, you know, and there's all kind of things that you can broadcast out with like walkie-talkies and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But essentially what I end up trying is basically just like his guided meditation videos on YouTube. And for whatever reason, you know, I don't really know the whys, but like for me, being able to initiate that stuff was very easy. You know, I mean, for me, the way it basically worked was essentially astral projection, right? So, and then you go out there and find stuff.
Right.
So I don't have a good reason or know why. I just know that to me, it was very easy. All right. So much so that like when I was listening to the video, I remember like I couldn't really feel like I could leave the planet until the dude stopped talking. Like as soon as he was stopped, I could be like, boom, and blast off. Right. It was he was distracting. It was good for getting me there in the state of mind, but afterwards, like progressing in it was like, nah, I needed silence. So I give that a shot. Right. And I make contact with a being each night, essentially. You know, there's
Wow.
a lot of details there. And I don't really know what to think about them all. You know, it was very interesting.
So by making contact, what do you mean? You see them, they see you, they, you know, shine lights down. What kind of contact are you talking about?
I mean, essentially, what I remember doing was basically like putting the thoughts out there while I'm hanging out, which what feels and looks to me like space, for lack of a better words, I guess you could say, in
Yeah.
astral form. Like, you know, put out the thoughts and vibes. Hey, I want to talk to somebody. Is there anybody here? Anybody would want to talk? You know, and sometimes I would be immediately like with a being, or I'd be in like a UFO. Like
Oh.
it would just kind of like suddenly happen. It just depended, you know, like that's how it started off. But eventually it came to the point where, you know, like my focus became a little bit more streamlined, and I wanted to make contact with certain species. Like instead of just being open to whatever, you know, it became a little bit more targeted. But so needless to say, I do this for about a week straight, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh, I'm having these contacts with these things, and I'm coming away with, you know, certain things. You know, I find it interesting that in those experiences, I was only allowed to remember certain details with each being. Like it would depend on who it was. The one that I made the contact with first allowed me to remember the most. And actually, after all this stuff ends and years down the road, it actually came back to me one last time in a dream. And maybe we can get to that. But anyways, so I'm doing all this, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, after I wake up the next morning, like, did that really happen? It is this all like a figment of my imagination, or is this really going on?
Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, but at the very least, you know, I've got nothing going on. I mean, I'm in college right now, hanging out on the family's property, and you know, just trying to get everything done. I mean, I'm not really working except for on the weekends. So I'm like, well, you know, whatever. We got nothing else going on. We'll just keep on doing it, you know. And so after about a week, I would say it was, I don't know, fourth, maybe fifth day or so, is when things kind of turn around. So, in
Okay.
order to tell the story, guys, I'm going to have to turn off my camera because I don't want you guys to see me get all emotional. I'm so sorry.
It's
I kind of
perfectly
come
fine.
from the philosophy of the warrior never bears his heart until the axe reveals it. So
Right.
you guys don't need to see me get all emotional. I'll come back later, I promise.
Okay.
So 2 seconds. And all right, cool. So now, the last night of everything, right? Okay, so I'm not gonna initiate contact because the wife's home. Okay.
Okay.
And so we're in bed sleeping. She's transitioning to be able to be back on day shift because she was working nights
Mhm.
as a nurse. And so we're laying there in bed, we're asleep. And all of a sudden, we both get woke up by something outside of our window. And I don't really know how to explain the way it sounded. I mean, it sounded like, I don't know, two critters fighting or something. Like, I mean, it was just a god awful racket. And she wakes up, I wake up, I'm like, what in the world? She's, Jim, go get the dog. Get, I've got to get some sleep. I've got to be up in the morning. I'm like, oh, all right, all right, all right. So I go outside and I'm looking all over for the dog. And I can't find it anywhere. I go all over the field, the pasture, around the buildings. There's nothing. There's not a single thing anywhere. It's just dead silent. So I'm like, all right, that's weird, but can't find the dog, so guess I handled it. So go back in, get back in bed. Did you get the dog? Yeah, I got the dog. All right. So lay back down. It's maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so after laying down, fixing to get drifted off back to sleep. And it starts up again. And this time the wife wakes up and she's just mad. She's beating on me. Go outside and get the dog. Don't come in before you do. And each word is, punctuated with a punch. She's whooping on me pretty good. Go get that stupid dog. I'm like, all right, all right, all right. Calm down. I'm up. I'm getting the dog. I won't come back until it's took care of. So we go. This time I get a flashlight. Now it's an LED flashlight. It's pretty good. It's pretty bright. I still use it today. It's a floodlight, not a spotlight, but it's fully charged and bright enough. So out I go back out into the pasture and around the buildings, around the trailer, looking up under everything that's out there. And I'm out there for a good while, another 15, 20 minutes. And there's still no sign of this dog. No sign of anything, no animals. I mean, I had a family of raccoons that lived across the driveway from me that I loved them. They came and hung out with me when I drank beer by the fire at night.
Mhm.
I mean, I was actually concerned that my dog was like out there trying to kill him. But I mean, apparently not. I mean, I don't see anything. There is nothing. There is not a single cricket making a noise. Not a tree frog, not a cricket, not a cicada, not a nothing. It is just dead, eerie silence. And I'm
Now,
just,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but real quick. Normally at night like this, would there be crickets and cicadas and just noise, general noise going on out there?
oh man, it's a cacophony of noise out here at night.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I figured. Okay. Sorry.
So, so I'm just like amazed. I can't. There's nothing. There's not a sign of anything. I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to just give up again because there's just nothing. All right. So at the giving up point, start turning around, walking back, right? And I'm fixing to go around the corner to go around the front of the trailer to go back in. And I noticed before I do that there is a light that's hanging above the trees. That's, I don't know, 300-400 feet or so above the tree line.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, all the stories just start coming back, man. And I'm just like no, I want no part of this. I mean, I'm even saying this a lot. I'm like, I don't know what you are. I do not care. I want nothing to do with whatever's going on out here. I'm done. Goodbye. Right.
Right.
So finish going around that corner. And before I can step in, I make one of the worst mistakes of my life. The CE5, first of all, was the first mistake and definitely the worst mistake. So folks, don't try that. But anyways, at the end of my driveway, I can see something standing there in my flashlight. And, I don't really know exactly what it was, but what I'm seeing is blacker than the blackest black, right? It's very strange. It's almost as if whatever it is literally absorbing the light all around it, because all I see is just pitch black with where the figure is. And, and it's 100% outlined, whereas everything around it is lit up. Not super great, but great enough for me to be able to tell detail, at least of a black shadow, tell depth and all that. So uh the sucker's probably at least 7 foot, maybe 8. I don't know for sure, but very tall. It's got a larger head, but not disproportionate. It's not like the typical like description of what we see with grays or whatnot, right?
Right.
But I mean, it is larger, and it's got a pointed chin. I can tell that. Um, it's got a long neck. It's got very flat looking shoulders, and then very long arms. I mean, and spindly too. I mean, not much muscle definition going on here in the arms, but very very long. Like I can see, the hands are hanging down past the knees. The fingers look like they're 10-12 inches long. I mean, it's very very strange. All right, let's go back up. Um, as far as like the chest of it goes, it looks very triangular shaped in that, I can see the detail. It looks like it's just like rib cage, imagine, that goes straight into spine. So like imagine like your skeleton that's hanging up in science class, right? And just stretch skin or leather or something over that.
Mm-hmm.
So stretch that over the ribs and on down. It looks like there is just no organs that could possibly be in the abdominal cavity of this thing. I mean, I feel like I can wrap my hands around it. It's so skinny. Keep on going down. I see the pelvis once again. It looks like skin stretched over bone. I mean, it's very heart shaped. Very long legs. Very long legs. The legs are the only part of it that actually has muscle definition. They're fairly thick. And so it goes on down, and then the one thing I notice is like think of like where our ankle is, all right, when your foot begins. On this thing, there's like another segment of leg that comes forward, kind of like an insect or a hawk or something like that. Or, hawk leg like on a dog, sort of. But
Right.
there's like an extra segment there before it comes into a very large foot. So this is what I'm seeing at the end of my driveway, okay? And like I said, blacker than black, but the flashlight is lighting up around it. I can see definition of the shape. I can see definition of the depth within the shapes of the blackness. It's almost like a weird like camouflage effect that's going on. I don't really know how to explain that. But it's looking away from me as I'm now frozen in fear with my flashlight on this thing at the end of my driveway. And then I guess it notices that everything around it's lit up, and it turns its head to look at me, and then I see its eyes, and its eyes just go, wide, like in surprise, like, oh no, it sees me. I mean, it just pops open, like, oh no. and his eyes reflecting back white light, like the entire eye, not pupil, not, you know, not just part of it, but like the entire eye, like it's got a covering on it or something, because it's reflecting back the light. And I know it's a reflection on in this particular situation because it's the exact color of my flashlight. All right. So it sees me, makes the face, turns, and runs down the road. And I can see a good, I don't know, 200-300 feet from where I'm at with my light. And it just clears it in a flash, man. It's just boom, 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 just gone. And there's nothing. I mean, it's just so fast, mind-boggling. Like, and the entire time that I'm sitting here watching, I mean, I'm just frozen. I cannot move. It's just not possible. And so I'm freaked out. I'm freaked out. And once I can no longer see it, I've got enough willpower to actually move, run in the house, grab my pistol, chamber around, and I turn around and I'm facing the door, just scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
You know, and I swear, if I hear anything, it doesn't matter what the noise is. If I hear anything, I am unloading all 17 rounds through the walls, through the doors, whatever, at the sound. I don't care. You know, I always say, thank God my wife doesn't snore, because she might not have made it that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm terrified, man, and I'm just waiting for anything for minutes. I mean, it feels like an eternity, but I mean, in reality, it was probably maybe 15 minutes at the most. And eventually something starts to happen, and I don't know how to explain it. Like, to me, yes, everything that happened is scary and terrifying, but the next part is just the worst. So suddenly I have mind speak. It's it sounds like it's emanating from like the middle of my brain, I guess, and yet it also kind of feels like it's from all around me. I don't know what to make of that, but I have that happen. The voice I hear, it's very androgynous. I mean, I can't really tell male or female.
Right.
And it says to me in my head, if I wanted to kill you, you would already be dead. Go back to sleep now. And I don't know how to explain it, but it was as if after that, it took control of me somehow. I popped the magazine out of the pistol, racked the slide, got the bullet out, laid everything down on the couch, and walked to the bed, laid down, and was out like a light. The whole time that was happening, though, I am present in my own head. I am screaming at myself, doing everything in my power to try to make this not happen, because I've got to protect my wife.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's the only thought that's going through my head. But I'm powerless to stop it, and it's the most haunting thing that I believe I've ever experienced in my entire life. That feeling of helplessness during so much terror.
So the part that you couldn't stop was after the mind speak, when you emptied the pistol and went back to bed?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So then I went to sleep, woke up. It was the next morning. I woke up in a panic. I was, still ready for war. I was like, oh my God, where's the gun? Where's the wife?
Yeah.
What's going on? Who am I? What's happening? I've got to pee. So I'm just complete panic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what time is it? Oh God, I got to get to class. So, and thank God, I had a late night at class because God, I did not want to come home. I
Yeah.
did not want to come back home after that, man. I was freaked out the whole day and for plenty of time afterwards. But it was I don't know how to explain it all. It was weird. Good news is the dog did come back.
That's good.
I did end up finding the dog. It was about 3 days later, though. The dog came back covered in mud. Apparently, she was hiding in a sinkhole in the pasture and was shaking like a leaf. And, you know, it, she was very scared about
Mhm.
everything after that, which is not normal for a cow dog. I mean, this dog
Right.
was fearless. I mean, she'd go out and chase coyotes and kill critters on the regular. That's what she lived to do.
Yeah.
But after that, she was never the same after that. But I mean, I can't blame her because you know what? I wasn't either.
Yeah.
So
This story, I've read this story before, and that email that you sent me, for some reason, I was drawn to this story, and I wanted this to be, I didn't talk to you about this before you came on, but I wanted you to tell this story. And if anybody remembers me telling this story, it's completely, I don't want to say completely different, but coming from you, it is, with the emotion and everything in your voice, and even the fact that you had to turn the camera off, so much more powerful, and such an amazing story. Thank you so
yeah,
much for sharing that one. I don't know. I don't know what it was about that story that just drew me to that. And folks, when I say that the email that he sent me, I showed my wife the other day, and I'm thumbing through it. There's a lot of stuff, and for this one to jump out to me, there was a lot there, and I
yeah,
appreciate you saying that one.
yeah, man, no problem. I mean, it's weird because like, yeah, I mean, I had a few things happen before all this, and in their own right, they're weird, can be scary depending on your perspective.
Right.
True. It was after this event, where things just took off. I mean, that's where you know I mean, it's really like the reason why I even call myself on YouTube Fisher of Spam. It's a play on words because
Mhm.
after this, it's like everything in the kitchen sink was thrown at me. I mean, I've experienced plenty more UFO stuff, ghost stuff, shadow person stuff, freaking dog man, maybe a cloaked Bigfoot just this year. I mean, it's just been nonstop with stuff that, excuse me, should be, seemingly unconnected. Like, if I had just one alien experience after this, it'd be astounding, right?
Right.
But subject matter that or maybe not we, but like the mainstream would normally think is unconnected to begin happening, like the odds of that should be astronomical. Like I, I shouldn't have seen a freaking dog man after this. That's crazy. I shouldn't have seen a giant spider. I don't know how to explain all that. But, that's why I say, I mean, I saw everything. It's paranormal spam, man.
Yeah.
And it's also a play on words. Jesus said that we'd be a fisher of man. I feel like I've just been a fisher of spam
There you
lately because
go.
I've just gotten everything, and I just
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that there is an explanation. There is an explanation, and it's because I initiated the CE5 stuff. I made that contract. I initiated it. I allowed things to come into my life through that. It was a gate. I gave it legal permission to manifest however it wanted. whenever it wanted, you know. And it took me a very long time to come to that understanding, you know, and to get back to like my Christian roots so that I could actually have some victories, you know, in my life eventually after this. I mean, for a while it was just a lot of just torturous agony, man. Things are just happening and I have no control over it, you know. So
Right.
so
I just put it up there. Courtney said it right. I mean, once is weird, twice is a coincidence, more than three is a pattern. Um, I mean,
correct.
even if you would have just finished with this experience and didn't have any more, I mean, that would be enough for a lifetime.
Yeah, that you would think, right?
One question here: did the experience increase your frequency? Easy for me to say, right? Open up your third eye. Sounds like it did.
I mean, yeah. Um, yeah, there's plenty of times like where before things would kick off, like I could feel it. Like I could
Yeah.
feel a change in the atmosphere, in the air, you know, however you want to explain it. Like I could feel the energy of weirdness being present, I guess you could say. But I did find some like other weird like correlations, I guess maybe would be the right word for it. Like, you know, I noticed a lot of times everything would happen a lot after a rain for whatever reason. Almost everything that's ever happened to me has been in the summer or the spring. I don't know why that is, but I mean, there's a few things, you know, and I did my best to like try to keep the variables down. Like, because when I noticed like the rain part, I was like, okay, let's get a dehumidifier, let's get salt lamps, let's do everything to like, you know, pull the moisture out of the air just in case it's like black mold or something, you know. I mean, I tried my best to be rational and, you
Right.
know, like, you know, take all the variables away, you know, make sure that it's nothing natural that could be happening. And, you know, I did my best to prevent all of that. But, I mean, it never made a difference. Never did.
Wow.
So I don't know. Don't know, Pam.
Wow.
Maybe.
Man, I had a question and I completely lost it. Well, anyway, we have probably time for one or two more
All right.
encounter stories.
All right.
And
Well,
if I
let's
can
go
think of
back.
that question, I'll. Oh, the energy shift. So you can. And sorry about that. I'm old.
No,
My
all
brain
good.
doesn't work good. Um, so you're sitting outside, at the bonfire drinking a beer, or whatever, and you can
Yep.
sense when something's coming. Is that what you're saying?
Um, I could at that time, yeah, because things were popping off a lot,
Okay.
especially like when I lived there on her family's property there in Dawson. Things were popping off a lot. I mean, shoot, when I'd be out there at the campfire, man, you know, drinking a beer or something, I'd be up there watching the sky and be like, oh, look, I have a weird feeling. Let's look up. Oh, there's a light up there. It's way up there. Maybe it's just a plane. Please be a plane. Please be a plane. Watching it. Then, boom, makes a right angle. It takes off a completely different direction. It's like,
Not a plane.
okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not a plane.
Yeah.
That would kill you. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I'd be cued into those things, you know, like even I've never told this one online. It's a vast one. When I was living there, I saw a giant spider. It's the
Okay.
only time I can think in my life that I might have seen a cryptid, like an actual cryptid. However, if you listen to Jerry and Lee Tracker E, which I do, maybe there's a bit more to the giant spider. But I was in the driveway. I don't remember what it was I was doing. I was fixing to go or do something. I don't know. Maybe I had to go mess with the cows. I can't remember. And I felt a bit of a pressure change. I started being observant and looking around. And I see something moving down a tree. And the coloration of it made my brain say squirrel at first. So I was like, oh, there's a squirrel coming down. So I keep walking to the car and I'm still watching it. And I realize, wait a second, that shape is not a squirrel. It comes all the way down the tree, through the what little bit of the yard that's there in front of it, and goes into the dirt road and just stops there. And it's a giant spider the size of a freaking car tire.
Holy cow.
Yeah, huge. And I mean, and it's just laying there flat, all spread out. And I can actually say, like, the closest spider that it resembles, I mean, because I got a really good look at it. So if you look up I believe it's called a black water spider, would be the closest thing that you can find to it. If you actually research it, you can you'll find out that it's probably like the biggest spider in North America that can be in the water or in the top of the trees. And realistically, we don't know how big it can get. But if that's what it was for sure, then I can tell you that it gets pretty big. Because I've only seen one more after the fact that was dead in a pool, and it was the size of my hand. I mean, that's already tarantula size. That's big enough, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I was able to feel certain things before they would happen. So, I don't know. Now I don't think I do, unless it's got malicious intent, you know. So, I don't know if that helps answer the question or not.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'm looking up a black water spider. I was going to throw a picture up here in just a second.
Okay.
So
while we're doing that, let's bring it around and tell a funny story with what time we got left. How's that sound?
End on a funny note. I like that.
Yeah, let's try to bring a little bit of levity here. At least, if nothing else for me, right?
Yeah.
Hard to remember some of that stuff, man. It's rough on me. But anyways, so I mentioned like I had an experience when I was 17. All right. So a buddy of mine was with me. We were coming back real late at night to pick up some green corn. Let's put it that way. The devil's lettuce. Had not partaken, had not done anything like that, was 100% sober. And we're going down the back road, going back towards my house. And he's got to pee. Can't hold it. I'm like, really, man? You really can't hold it for like 15, 20 minutes more before we get that? Nah, man. I'm like, all right. So we stop. I pull over on the side of the road, and we're at a very interesting part that's really close to me. And this landmark is called Matheny's Bridge. Now, Matheny's Bridge has a very long and interesting history, you know, dating back even to like recorded into the 1800s with all kind of ghostly apparitions, Bigfoot, all kind of stuff. All right. So it's a very active part of this area.
Okay.
So I pull over right before the bridge. He gets out, starts peeing on the side of the road. And just because I'm a bad friend, I decide I want to mess with him. So I start tapping my brakes and lighting him up as he's going. And he's yelling at me, "Quit it, dude." I'm like, haha, what are you scared of? No one can see you anyways, man. Come on.
See, I would have started, moving the car away from him.
Yeah, I probably should have. But he's over there yelling at me as he's letting loose and everything, and I'm laughing at him. And all of a sudden, he starts screaming bloody murder. I'm like, what in the world? And he's, hopping to the side, like, still holding on and trying to get back to the car. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? And he gets in the car and he's screaming his head off. He's just, effing go, dude, effing go. Just screaming. I'm like, what's wrong with you, dude? What's happening? He starts to grab my hand while he's screaming, trying to get me to put it in gear. I'm like, fine. Let's go. We're going. And he's still screaming. And I'm just like, what is wrong with you, you psycho? He's like, two things. One, I've zipped myself up and I'm bleeding everywhere.
That's not funny.
I look over, and man, there's blood on the front of his pants. He got himself good. I'm just like,
Poor
oh,
guy.
dude. Oh, no. And I'm like, okay, all right. Well, what's number 2? Like, number 2 is the second time you tapped your brake lights, I looked in front of me, and there was something that was taller than me standing right in front of me that's eyes would light up every time you hit the brake lights. And he's like 6'1", 6'2". I mean, he's not short. And he's like, it's way taller than me. Like at least by a foot or two. And it's, massive width-wise. So I'm like, oh, okay, what's that? Bigfoot? He's like, I don't know, I guess. Of course, he's from Michigan, so for him it's Sam Squatch or something ridiculous. I saw Sam Squatch. Like,
wow.
Okay, whatever. So that's my funny Bigfoot story by proxy.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
But
bring that.
I guess it was Thursday night on Blondes and the Booze. Sir Brian Bowden had a similar story of peeing in front of a Bigfoot, or I can't remember if it was a Bigfoot or Dogman or whatever it was. But you're kind of marking your territory, saying that you're the dominant one, and it probably didn't like that. Wow.
I mean, to be fair though, it didn't have to roll up on the car that stopped in the road. There's plenty of cars on the road, but
there's true.
I don't know. Maybe he was up late too, trying to get a Sammy. I don't know. But
or just get a dude.
Yeah.
Wow, that's that was awesome.
Got to bring some levity to the heavy stuff, man.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Before we go, I think this was you that had mentioned this before.
Okay.
I did a Google search way back when I got the email from you about the aliens, and was that similar?
Yes, that's very, very similar.
Okay.
Notice how on the hips and the shoulders there's points going on.
Yeah.
So that part didn't exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so if you make those shoulders a little bit more broader and flat, that would be correct. If you make the hips heart shaped, that would be correct. The chest now, it needs to be like more triangular and like the abdomen almost non-existent. Just stretch the skin over a spine.
Wow.
And then that's it. Long fingers, got the extra digit like an insect coming out for the legs into the foot. So yeah, that would be extremely similar. Similar.
That's disgusting. And then there's the spider that I found, the black water spider.
That's it.
Yeah, I'll you guys are gonna have nightmares on that one. Yeah.
And what's weird is because like for the spider, like for the longest time, I don't remember where I saw the information at. I think maybe it was on Monster Quest, maybe it was on Nat Geo. I don't remember, but they were like, they were talking about it in North America, and they're like, we don't know the actual size of how big these things get. They can get really big. We know that in the trees, they can go up there and eat birds, which is, something usually reserved for a tarantula. So for like the longest time in my head, I was like, it's normal. They gave you the disclaimer. We don't know how big they can get. It's not like it's easy to explore the tops of trees, right?
Right.
So I was like, it's not a big deal, but after learning about the from Miss E and Mr. Jerry, I was like, well, maybe there's something to it. Either way, even if there's nothing to it, it was still the size of my car tire.
No kidding.
That ain't small.
No.
So it's supernatural or not, I don't know, but still scary.
I don't know where spiders that size outside of a Harry Potter movie, I don't know where they would come from.
Right? Yeah. I wish I would have had a gun, man. I would have tried to take a couple pot shots at that thing. But
that would have been interesting to see if anything would have happened to it.
I know.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah. But yeah, coloration wise, that's almost exact. Almost exact.
Really?
So, yep.
I will have to show my wife and scare her half to death tonight. All right, Fisher. I appreciate you coming on here. This has been fantastic. You know, me reading that story, I didn't do it justice. Hearing you say it, it was just phenomenal. Hearing the emotion and everything, it was just phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Yep. Not a problem. It was my honor.
Thank you,
I've got
sir.
plenty more whenever you need them.
All right, I appreciate it, and I have a list of a lot of them. So. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight, sharing your part of your weekend with us. Have a great rest of the weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We appreciate you showing up in chat. And until we meet again, everybody, have a great night. Thanks again, Fisher, for coming on here. Appreciate you guys. Have a good night, everybody.